I thought I'd take a couple of minutes here to relate some thoughts about these hiking days, my hiking days, and a few things that I've internalized a little bit more on this hike in the past week or so. I'm going to use the segment from Idlewild up here to Big Bear. Speaking of which, that is Big Bear City down there. And Mount San Jacinto is a mountain that can definitely bite you. Right now, there is still a bit of an alternate because of the old mountain fire, but it doesn't really matter. The trail is eventually going to open up there anyway. And keeping an eye on the weather, temperatures, potential snow on trail, stuff like that, is all works to one's advantage if you connect the dots right. And if you don't, you will definitely be working very hard, or worse. So I pretty much caught that okay. I mean, it was a nasty day on the alternate, but it was only a kind of a day hike, so we didn't have to camp up in the really brutally cold, nasty environment. This is about a week ago, I guess. So anyway, dropped down into town. Good, sort of a little reset overnight, whatnot, some good food, and then bounce out again to come up and over Mount San Jacinto, which may or may not include the extra distance to the summit, which isn't very far. I did not do that this time, but coming up from Idlewild to, say, Saddle Junction on the Devil's Slide Trail, which is what I did, wasn't too bad. You know, it's a bit of a walk up to Humber Park to the trailhead, or if you're lucky, you'll get a hitch. And then a couple of miles of trail, not too bad. Even with covered snow, there's enough local traffic and hikers that it's compacted, so with spikes, no big deal. But at Saddle Junction, meeting up with the Pacific Crest and heading north, it's a different story, especially when I was up there, because the snow had occurred a couple of days before. It just wasn't consolidated and there wasn't enough traffic yet to pack it down. So I was going through more what I'll call, you know, fluffy, sort of quasi-powder stuff than I would have liked, even though I had my spikes on. That all takes extra energy. Hard to notice step by step. At the end of 9 or 10 hours, it adds up. So from Saddle Junction to Strawberry Junction, I don't know, somewhere around 3 miles, you get an idea of what Fuller Ridge might be like, which is another 7 miles to get through Fuller Ridge. And this year, because of that storm and not enough days, like I just described, had gone by to really kind of consolidate, pack out the trail, I did some research on trail up there and decided I was going to take the alternate around, which I'd never done anyway. I've gone over Fuller before without spikes, but it was compacted. Talking to some hikers that did go through the same day I did, it was brutal. Some post-holing up to the knee, and on a very steep traverse side hill through the trees. A bit dangerous if you should space it out at the wrong time. Anyway, those are so anyway, from there, if you understand the trail, that's after Fuller's the big 15-mile drop down to Cabazon, to a water fountain, which is pretty sweet. From there, and I had camped up just at the start of the decline, below the snow line. So the next day I went over to Whitewater, and that wasn't so bad. Whitewater Preserve is a day hiking, camping sort of area. Bathrooms, I actually stayed in a very nice, clean bathroom overnight, so because they were forecasting rain, which didn't occur then. But the next day, the target was to get up from Whitewater around 20 miles to Mission Creek Trail Camp, mile 240. And coming through the canyon, which I'd been through before, you know, was not too bad. But eventually, it does have to climb up to the ridge, up at around 7,500 feet. So, and for me, the rain did kind of start off and on through the day, but it took a fair amount of energy, and I had been eating well, to get up there. So although initially I kind of wanted to go another 6 miles to a cabin, that was not going to happen. I was toast by the time I got to mile 240. And there is water there. It's on the water report, but basically you walk around the side of this corral and follow the beaten path, and there's a little cave and water is just coming right out of the mountain. So that's nice. Anyway, rained hard that night, stayed dry. Next morning, it looked like it might sort of clear. It didn't. It started raining later. But again, that climb up to Mission Creek Trail Camp really hammered me, and so guess what? My appetite left. And so I was basically left not feeding the fire again, and basically came over the mountain and ended up taking an exit and getting into Big Bear Lake, and which is kind of why I'm hiking this slack pack now, because I'm picking up those miles here, because I want to start down on Highway 18 tomorrow, which sets up really well for 4 days to Wrightwood through Deep Creek and the hot springs and all that stuff. But the point being, for me anyway, is pay attention to the weather, the mileage, potential snow, certainly the grade of the trail. The mind always thinks it could do more than the body wants to, for me anyway, so that's fairly typical. To the degree I pay attention to that, the fun needle stays moving, and when I don't, it tanks. So, just some thoughts on hiking in general. These type of hikes are long, so you kind of have to dial it out with what works for you. That's what I'm trying to do here. Hopefully that's helpful, and glad to see the weather has cleared up, even though it's still pretty cold. I doubt it's hit 40 yet. Wind chill comes and goes as I migrate through these trees, but it is a pretty day.